Welcome to Sold Out, the podcast where we travel through time to try to see the biggest movies of the last 50 years on the big screen, only to find that they're sold out. So we see other movies instead while we wait for the big one. My name's Ian, and I'm here with my co-host, Michael Smith.
Hi, I am Michael Smith. I am a former film student, a longtime movie critic with over 15 years of experience. I used to write my movie reviews for outlets like MoviePass and the Fan-Sided Network. But now, of course, I am the co-host of your new favorite podcast, Sold Out.
And I'm grateful to have you as a co-host on my new favorite podcast, Sold Out. I am, again, Ian Charter, media critic and movie adorer. This week, we are in 2016. We actually came here to see Captain America: Civil War. This is an interesting weekend, though, Michael. There are over 100 movies in theaters.
There are lots of movies. There is the quote-unquote live-action remake of Jungle Book.
Why are we quote-unquoting that one?
I mean, because it's still like 80% CGI.
It's mostly animated.
Yeah.
Did you see Sam has a picture with Jon Favreau?
I did. Yeah.
I was excited for him.
I am excited for our good friend Sam, who is like the definition of a Disney obsessive.
I know, more so than either of us.
And that's saying something.
It is. He did he do Jungle Book, or am I mistaken? Favreau.
I think he did.
Okay.
I want to say he did.
Okay. That's why I brought it up.
I saw Jungle Book once. I feel like it was okay.
I fell asleep during it once.
Oh, cool.
Not a criticism of it. I was just extraordinarily tired. But
what else was playing? Mother's Day. Was that one of those like Rob Marshall ensemble casty things?
Maybe. I don't know. I never saw it. It does kind of feel like that title, though, because they just decided to do every holiday at one point, right?
Yeah, I think that's what that is. Let's go with that.
Okay.
Huntsman: Winter's War. The first Huntsman was not great, and I didn't think it was a hit. I'm surprised it got a sequel. What else? We have My Big Fat Greek Wedding 2. We have Keanu, a Key and Peele comedy with a cat.
I love Key and Peele so much.
They are quite funny.
I know.
Zootopia was still out and performing pretty well.
Also love Zootopia.
I love Zootopia too, but I feel like Zootopia is maybe something we will get to anyway, based on its success.
It's one of those top grossing movies. This is actually a pretty wild year. In fact, I think there are like 5 movies that are all $1 billion plus that came out in 2016. Like, I don't know if we were quite saying that theaters were dead this year. I know that that's like everybody's new favorite rallying cry, but
theaters are not dead. Theaters did a really nice job, I think, actually, of redefining what the theater experience is. And I think they are in a bit of a renaissance, might be a strong word, but I do think there's a bounce back.
I mean, this summer looks baller. So,
but the movie that we landed on was not one of those movies that made a bunch of money in 2016. It was a smaller movie that got a lot of critical acclaim, landed on some top 10 lists at the end of the year, got some genre awards. We're going to talk about Green Room. Ian, had you heard of this movie before we watched it?
I feel like at some point I saw a preview for it, but I think the easier answer is no. I hadn't. I recognized the cover.
Yeah, as we were going through kind of the list, trying to select movies, the name Green Room kind of popped for me. Like I had some sort of like vague familiarity with the idea that it was good without being able to place where any of that came from. It also makes it strange that I didn't see it at the time. So
I mean, I got to say, like when we bumped into this, when we were picking what movie to watch this week, I was pretty excited. You brought it up and I was like, ooh, this looks like a great horror film. This was when A24 was really, I mean, they're still making great films, but they were sort of like starting to get more popular and get known for making great horror films. But yeah, I don't know. I think Green Room just really, really flew under the radar. And this actually, we can talk about this now. Hell, let's do a weird opening. You want to mess with the opening?
Why not?
You asked me at our Jaws episode if I thought that Jaws made movies better or worse.
I did ask you.
And I was thinking a lot about this as we were watching Green Room and as I was looking at how it did and whether I was aware of it, because I thought, man, there's over 100 movies in theaters. Movies must have been doing great. But then I looked at how Green Room did and how little I knew about it. And I thought, this movie got swallowed up in Zootopia, Jungle Book, and Captain America. This movie didn't have a chance in hell because the little baby sharks swimming through the theaters of these movies, right? Coming from Jaws, this movie didn't have a chance.
Didn't have a chance, but it got made anyway. And so I think, 2016 was this like changing landscape for our media. Right now we are very much in 2025 in the like streaming era, though, as you said before, this summer looks like it's going to be really solid. I think audiences are starting to settle and discover what we want our media to be, where we want to get it. I think there's still an appreciation for being able to get everything at home, but I also think there is a desire for the event aspect of a movie.
Mm-hmm.
And Green Room is that type of movie that I think we still make. I think we still see them. I think these lower budget, especially genre movies, are always going to be a thing. And you mentioned that it was one of A24's early movies. I think A24 is a studio that really excites me. A24, there aren't a lot of studios where the fact that it was produced or distributed by them actually says something about the product itself. Like there is an A24 aesthetic.
That's interesting because I agree to a limit because I think there's an A24/neon aesthetic.
Yes. Yeah, that's a really good call out. I think neon is another one that, a lot of stuff put out by neon could have been put out by A24. And
I don't know that I've seen an A24 or a neon film in theaters and not at least liked it.
Yeah, I'm thankful that they exist. I think you and I both really appreciate the big swings, and the biggest sin a movie can commit is being boring.
Mm-hmm.
And that is never going to be the case with A24 or Neon. Even their misses are at least doing something that feels fresh and new and different, interesting. They're not boring.
They are not. Well, that's a great segue. So I think let's get some tickets.
And popcorn.
And let's go see Green Room because this one is definitely a swing of a machete, in fact.
There is multiple swings of a machete.
Let's talk about whether it connects.
Let's do it.
For each of you, name your desert island band.
Don't block the hallway. The owner doesn't fuck around with the fire code. Sound check in 15. You're on in 20.
Got it. You call the cops.
Fuck that.
All right, let's give them some room to work, folks.
Treat this like paintball.
Hey, I want the rest of your pep talk.
You were so scary at night. A desert island band.
Tell somebody who gives a shit.
That was punk rock as hell.
It was punk rock as hell.
Let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to get a classic Michael synopsis.
Yeah, we are.
We'll be back with more Sold Out. A promotional message from Uplift Media.
I'm Rosie Page. Welcome to Nailed It Novels, the book club where we bring stories to life, but with some seriously sparkling, glittery nail art. I'm in not one, not two, but 3 book clubs, and that's just not enough. So I'm starting my own, but with a twist. I'm gonna bring my love of reading and my passion for nail art together, and we're gonna draw inspo from the books to the nails. So whether you're a lifelong reader, a lapsed book lover, or just here for the nail inspo, this space is for you. Nailed It Novels isn't about being well-read. It's about the love of the read. And the nails? That's just my way of bringing the stories right to their fingertips. We launch July 24th, and a new episode will drop every other Thursday. So mark your calendars and get ready to talk books and nails with me. Come for the stories and stay for the sparkle. Our first read is Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wang. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to Nailed It Novels on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. Happy reading, Nailed It Novelers!
Welcome back to Sold Out. We just watched Green Room, and now Michael is going to give us a classic Michael synopsis. Break it down. What was Green Room about?
All right, Green Room is about why you should not go to Portland. So we're spending some time with a punk rock band called the Ain't Rights, and they learn that lesson the hard way when their original gig in the Pacific Northwest is canceled. And in order to earn enough money to get themselves back home on the East Coast, they take a job at a bar that caters to the boots and braces crowd. When a member of the band stumbles upon a crime scene in the green room of said bar after their set, they are all kept captive at the club while the venue's neo-Nazi owner devises a final solution to the threat the band's knowledge presents.
Did you say final solution on purpose?
Sure fucking did.
I was like going to ask you a question and then that completely derailed me. So you know what? You kick us off. I got nothing now. Good job.
This movie, we can get out.
Motherfucker.
We'll get out of the way early. I really like this movie. I thought it was very clever.
Me too. I enjoyed it so much.
And I think that the writing was very smart. And there is a scene very early in the movie where the band is arriving at what is supposed to be a gig on this like West Coast tour that they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And they meet up with a gentleman who like does some like local radio, has like a zine. He's going to interview them. And this is before they find out that that gig has been canceled based on some kind of fuckery that this guy had committed with a prior show.
Yeah, it seems like he lost his relationship with the venue.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, just speaking of good writing, like that felt really real.
Yeah.
Like those are moments, like I've known people who are in punk bands that had those types of experiences. And I love that. Like it really kicks you off in a space that feels just really textured.
Yeah. And so they sit down, they have this interview and the guy asks some questions.
So, you guys working on anything new?
Yeah, a few songs. Maybe enough for like a 7-inch.
Sweet. Will you actually press one?
Yeah, if we could afford it.
Yeah, no, I really dig the analog style. Which brings me to the fact you guys are hard to find. Why no social media presence?
That's because booking more shows, selling more records would blow. It's not hard rock. No one wants to starve, but when you take it all virtual, you lose the texture.
What do you mean texture?
Just, you gotta be there. The music is for effect. It's time and aggression. Technical wizardry. And it's shared live. And then it's over. The energy can't last.
Unless you're Iggy Pop.
Yeah, well, good for him, but I don't think I want to be in my 70s still listening to Minor Threat. Or Tiger does. I won't live to be 70.
This scene, as I was experiencing it in real time, kind of annoyed me initially. The interviewer is bad. The questions are rote. And the band's answers are pretentious. But what I realized in retrospect is this scene sets up the stakes for the rest of the movie really, really well. I already said in my synopsis that they are eventually held sort of captive at this neo-Nazi skinhead bar.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that makes their situation so precarious is that nobody knows that they're there. It wasn't a scheduled show. They are, as established here, they're not on social media. They're not posting to Instagram or TikTok like, hey, this is where we're doing a show.
And even before that, we know they're living moment to moment because the movie starts with them crashed in a cornfield with no gasoline.
Yeah. And so we, through this scene, are told that if these people go missing, there is nobody who will be looking for them. And so it's just, you know, the reason I wanted to call it out is because it felt like bad writing that ended up being really, really excellent writing.
That's really interesting. So I actually had a completely opposite reaction to it. So
good.
Yeah, I grew up, I mean, not that I didn't think that it was good writing. I actually really enjoyed the interview. But again, it just felt very, very real. So I wasn't in a punk band. I had lots of friends who were in punk bands. Like we were in the punk scene. We went to punk shows. I grew up in the Seattle area and Boise. And these are people that I know. Like that interviewer running that zine, there was always some guy running a zine who like was going to be talking to some band or doing something. And he was always kind of full of shit. He never really like knew the person that he said that he knew. He never really got published in any place that he said he was going to get published. And he had no idea how to interview anyone or ask any questions. And so as I was experiencing it, I was like, this is pulling me back into this world that feels very real. And it makes sense. Jeremy Saulnier, the writer-director, also was in a punk band.
Yeah.
Grew up in the punk scene in the Pacific Northwest. And so this is clearly someone who knows this world. extraordinarily well, but I experienced it as a really well-written scene. And as they were describing, this sort of like push and pull between wanting to be able to eat, but also not wanting to he doesn't say sell out, but he might as well say sell out because the importance of having this texture.
But we like selling out here on the Sold Out
there's
podcast.
nothing more that we love than selling out. Man, if 17-year-old me could hear me now. Fucking sellout poser. But I love that it sets all of those things up though, because you understand who these people are really, really quickly, which is they are kind of pretentious. They are kind of dopey. They're not good planners.
I thought it was funny that they're talking about technical wizardry.
Yeah, it was like technical wizardry in a punk band.
It's punk rock. What?
The whole point is that it's not. Yeah, being a bad guitarist is sort of like the shtick.
Yeah, but I think that's great that you point that out, right? That it's sort of shitty by design.
It sort of is, because these are people who are sort of shitty by design. I mean, that's what punk is. Punk is shitty by design, right? You make the worst sounds. You get people amped up. You get people worked up so that they start a mosh pit, so that, whatever it is. And the night just sort of speeds out of control. Punk is it is just this difficult to contain, difficult to describe culture that I think this movie just somehow captures in a wonderful way.
Yeah, it's really easy, and I think it was probably really easy in 2016 to latch on to the Nazi of it all. That, the bad guys are these white supremacist skinheads who run a bar that is both a music venue and a community center.
Mm-hmm.
But that to me is less important than the punk rock part of the environment, right? These villains could have been anyone, I think, and you'd end up with largely the same movie. Whereas the chaos of punk rock really plays into the overall atmosphere that we're experiencing here.
Yeah. Because of it being 2016, I think it's important to note this is when suddenly we have a political candidate who is getting a little friendly with American Nazis. And so it probably made the film feel like it was delivering a very different message. But Jeremy Saulnier in an interview said specifically he chose Nazi punks. He just said he was looking for a group of people who kind of look like they're wearing uniforms and generally carry weapons.
Yeah, the movie's wildly apolitical.
It actually is. It doesn't seem to take it. I mean, it's not pro-Nazi punk, just to be clear.
No. But they could have just as easily been a biker gang or a drug cartel.
It wouldn't have mattered. Yeah. It wouldn't have mattered. It just happened to work out that this is Nazi punks based on... So Saulnier, I listened to a couple interviews with him. He is a weirdly practical writer and director. And this is actually something that let's just dive into it, because he chose these characters because they wear uniforms, because they carry weapons. They can represent this threat and can create a small army with them. But there are lots of other weird little practicalities about this movie, both in the making of it and the writing of it, that I just think are worth pointing out because he seems obsessed with these little details. The vent.
Yes.
The vent is up to code. Not only is it a big point in the movie that this vent is up to code, therefore the characters cannot attempt to crawl out of it. And this is the vent in the buried room in which they are producing heroin.
Yeah. So clearly they're not fully beholden to the law.
Well, no, clearly they're not fully beholden to the law. There was also a murder that took place in the building.
But I think it goes to sort of the sense of order that Patrick Stewart, who plays a character Darcy, who's kind of the head of the, I don't know what we want to call them. We'll call them the Nazis.
The Nazi,
right?
Yeah, they're the Nazi punks. That's
the Nazi punks. That there's a sense of order, and so what he wants is this perfect society, but he also runs his business in a way that has rules and
very, very clear rules. They're established early on about fire codes in the hall.
Yeah.
So we have the vent, we have the fire
and
codes.
no one's pulling a Die Hard.
It's weird. I really thought when we turned this movie on, we were going to get a Die Hard sequel. But there's also the weird scene about calling bullets cartridges.
Yes.
And how only 5 fit into this. And it's setting up these really great moments because that there's only 5 bullets because of this weird description about how they're so big, these cartridges, that you can only fit 5 in there. And it's just another strange practicality. But in the making of the film, and we kind of discussed this earlier, this movie didn't do well financially. It has a very small budget of $5 million. It only made $3.8 million, right? But Saulnier, in making it, he went full union.
Oh.
And because he went full union, he actually only had about $3 million to work with because everything went towards everything supporting union.
Yeah, it makes it expensive.
It made it very expensive to make a incredibly inexpensive film. So he has this sort of weird practicality thing about him. In some ways, I feel like he grew up a punk but became Darcy as he very organized and very detail-oriented. And it shows up in this film. I mean, this is what happens when a really detail-oriented guy makes a movie about punk.
Yeah, and it's really good for the storytelling too, right? That attention to detail. You mentioned the cartridges and how there are only 5. Well, that comes back into play, right? Where they're actually, we've all seen the action movie where there seems to be an unlimited amount of ammunition and it makes no sense and everyone's just firing shit everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And in this one, they literally are plotting their escape based on how many shots the antagonist has left in the gun.
And this really does come down to like, punk can contain multitudes. It can contain anarchy, and it can contain fascists.
Yeah.
And this is something like you and I kind of talked about before, which is like when two sides kind of reach around, you find that they have pretty similar ideals.
Yeah, there's this horseshoe theory, right? Where anarchy is on paper extreme libertarianism, right? It's no control, no government, no higher power. Fascism is obviously the opposite of that. It's incredible top-down, just vice grip control over things. But then you have punk rock that has both.
Yeah. And you have both in this movie. Darcy has this incredible top-down control over absolutely everything in the film, from the way the building is built and designed and following codes to the way each character interacts with each other, with other characters around. He just has this like sense of just like strength and planning and detail that you wouldn't normally associate with punk. And there's a lot of chaos happening underneath him, but he has total control over it. Whereas the band, the Ain't Rights, they couldn't be more chaotic and out of control. The film starts, as I mentioned, with them crashed in a cornfield because they fell asleep while they were driving and crashed into a cornfield. But yeah, so like we know that they are like, these are people who just do not have control over their own lives, over their sleep schedules, over their media or where they're going to be playing next. I mean, so and this is the other thing that I think is really interesting about this film, and I don't think it's a political statement. Again, I don't find the movie to be overtly political. I actually find it to just be a lot of fun. But there are a series of very intentional compromises that the Ain't Rights make that wind up with them stuck in the green room. I enjoy these little things that they just decide are okay and they overlook. Because it starts off with, as you mentioned, the event planner for
the person who is somehow enmeshed in the punk scene of the Pacific Northwestern locale they were supposed to play in.
That's good at drawing cat guts.
Yes.
Yeah, excellent at it. He tells them, hey, I can't get you any money. Basically, get some $6 for playing in that Mexican restaurant, which again felt crazy real. I actually saw a local punk band in a Mexican restaurant once in Boise. So that, like, again, this shit feels really, really real. It was on Cinco de Mayo that a local punk band, the Mosquitones, were playing. And I 100% stood in a Mexican restaurant and watched them play. They were great. But he gets them $6 and is like, hey, I've got this cousin. He's a little farther south, out of your way, but you can go play there and get some money. Just don't talk politics with him. He's a little bit, out there. And obviously the band knows what that means, because if you're in the punk scene, you're like, well, they're likely Nazi punks. They're in the Pacific Northwest. Like, they're not stupid. They're not organized, but they're not stupid. And so they sort of make this little compromise. Okay, we're going to go play in this scene that doesn't agree with our politics and might not be our favorite group, but whatever, we're going to do it. And then, of course, they play Fuck Nazi Punks by the Dead Kennedys to deliberately piss them off because they are chaos. They are, but...
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty punk rock, right?
Yeah, exactly. But they get there, and so they already know that they've made this compromise to get this $350, but then they enter the green room, and if you look around the green room, there's all... I love that it's not covered in swastikas. I love that it's not like...
No, there's more like SS logos than there are swastikas.
Yeah, exactly. There are these little SS logos, and the guys are all dressed in kind of these like darker colors that they're dealing with, and you're like, well, they could be just kind of professional, or maybe there's something more going on here, but they just keep overlooking sort of red flag after red flag after red flag in order to get their $350 because they've reached a point of potential starvation, of potentially being stranded. And so are these compromises or these survival techniques, are they good at surviving? Are they bad at surviving? These are sort of the questions that we're kind of wondering as we get into this moment where suddenly they witness the crime of a woman being stabbed in the head, which I want to pause there. That's like a steak knife stuck in her head, right?
Yeah. I mean, that whole ordeal's fucked up.
That choice, though, of sticking a knife in someone's head, again, you're talking about good writing. You know what I love about that murder? There's no fucking question that that person's dead. That this was and it was a murder.
Yeah.
There's no, maybe this was an accident and we can get out of it. We can talk our way out of it and say, oh, we didn't see anything. Maybe she's still alive. No. When there's a steak knife sticking out of the side of somebody's head on the floor, like this is the 6-inch vent. There's no escape.
Well, and it's very...
You saw it and there's no way out.
It's very disorienting, right? It's not the way you expect a murder to go down.
It isn't. But as an audience member, you don't question it for a minute. You know exactly what they saw. You know exactly what you saw. And you know that they're fucked.
Yeah.
And like, they don't have to explain a thing. You don't have to say a single word in that moment. And now all of these compromises have led them towards suddenly getting stuck in the green room.
Yeah. Anton Yelchin's character, Pat, stumbles in, sees Knifehead, tries to run away and call the cops, gets stopped by a couple of bouncers. They're put in the room, and here we are. And that's all that happens. There's no exposition. There's no anything. But we are there. We are in the green room, and we are trapped with these characters. And as an audience, we know just as much as they do how fucked everyone is.
And there's no plot holes. There's nothing that you're like, oh, this is kind of naive. They could have gotten out if they'd done this. They could have done this. No, this is very much a moment where as an audience member, you're like, if I were in this situation, I wouldn't know what to do. Like, I literally wouldn't know what to do. And so I'm here with these characters not knowing what to do. And like, this movie gets you into that place so quickly and so deftly. It like, you love it. Like, you just have to love how well it does it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's in a world where movies just put too much work into unsuccessfully setting the tone. It's really nice to see, we've used the term already, but like just the economy of it all.
Yeah. Not just the tone, but the premise. Sometimes when you get dragged into premises, especially with any type of horror film, there's a moment at which you're like, well, they could have just gone upstairs and done this, or they could have just like, there are all these sort of things that you go through with like your standard slasher where you're like, this is
not the girl who runs upstairs when she should be running out of the house.
No, like there's nothing contrived about it. This is like, they are so stuck. And from that point forward, you get to be here in this room with this group. And this is where like I have to ask now, and I brought this up in our notes, is this a horror movie?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked, because this movie absolutely plays with those horror tropes. They are very, very present. And I will say, just to give you a yes or no answer, yes, this is a horror movie.
I was going to say no.
Yeah.
Okay, hit me. I want to be convinced that this is a horror movie because I think I'm not mad that it isn't, but I walked away and I was like, I wasn't scared.
I will start this by saying that I generally give a very broad definition to horror movie.
Okay.
So for me, like, this is a movie that is designed to evoke fear and anxiety. Like, and that's a horror movie for me.
Do you consider Rear Window to be a horror movie?
That one is a little more horror adjacent.
Okay.
But I do consider Psycho to be a horror movie.
Okay. See, I think of this and Rear Window as being very similar.
I don't know. I think like the horror movies, like, yeah, they'll often use ghosts, monsters, the supernatural, but they can also use setting, or in this case, like a culture or whatever. Like, it just, there needs to be something that is unfamiliar in a way that it makes you squirm. And and I think that's what this does. Is I think this Nazi club is the haunted house. Like, you're trapped in this place where you don't want to be. There's traps around every corner. You don't know what they are because you're unfamiliar. You just know that it's scary and dangerous and that there is an antagonist that is evil.
I think all of that's present, and it does feel that way. I I like your description of it as like a haunted house, because there are sort of like these secret areas that we find our way into that don't lead where you want them to. But on the flip side, I think where this isn't a horror movie for me is I empathize with the antagonists. They're not as scared as the Ain't Rights, but like every time they go into the building to get them out, like there is a sense of fear and tension for them as well. And they're at real risk of getting harmed going in.
I agree with you on that point, right? So it's different than a typical slasher, right? Like I don't like the antagonists. It's not like Freddy Krueger where you're kind of rooting for the guy. Like they're obviously
I don't
bad
like
guys.
them.
You don't like them, but
you're worried for them in a weird way. Like the movie makes you
them, and so
fear for their safety.
When the protagonists have their victories, they do feel a little hollow.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Well, there's that great moment where they go from victim to aggressor when they cut Big Justin up the belly. And obviously Imogen Poots' character is the one who does it. Her character's named Amber, right?
Yes. And we probably need to back up a little bit. So
we probably need to back up a lot of it. Yeah,
so
we have gotten well ahead of ourselves.
The crime that is witnessed is a murder of a girl named Emily. She is stabbed in the head, as we have established.
And this is Amber's friend.
And Amber is a character who is part of this skinhead scene, but it is left ambiguous about whether or not she's a true believer in what they're doing.
Well, I know we were trying to give detail, but what I love about the movie is it's left ambiguous as to whether anybody's a true believer in what they're doing. Because every time a Nazi punk gets peeled away from the group,
they fold.
They tend to fold pretty quickly.
Yeah. Sorry. So
no,
so we have this.
You're doing the good work. I'm fucking shit up.
They are trapped in here. There's a very large bouncer named Big Justin who's holding them at gunpoint, played by Eric Edelstein, and they are actually able to subdue Big Justin. One of the band members apparently was like a wrestler in high school or something like that.
Yeah, he gets him in like a lock.
They get the gun and they have Big Justin, but eventually he has to put him in a chokehold, try to get him out because they can no longer be still, right? They can't hold Big Justin and plot their escape. They need to take Big Justin out of the equation. And so he puts him in a chokehold, tries to make him pass out. First time he passes out, he comes to rather quickly.
Yeah.
So he tries again, and Amber just picks up a box cutter and very matter-of-factly slices him up the middle.
She cuts him open like a fucking Amazon package. And this is, and again, this is like where the writing of this movie is so good. And this isn't with words, so I can't play clips for this because it's just, you're watching this occur. You already don't know where Amber's allegiances are. You don't know who she is. You don't know why she's there. She's friends with the girl who got stabbed in the head, and she's upset, but that's all you know about her. And then she commits the first act of like true violence from their side. But is she on their side? They don't 100%.
She's also the only one who has any idea of what it is they're dealing with.
She is. But the other thing that's so interesting about this is like chokeholds. They're deadly. People don't just go to sleep from chokeholds. That's not how chokeholds fucking work. That's how they work in the movies. But we've already established this movie is not an in the movies movie. And so the reason Big Justin comes back awake is because I think is it Reese who has him on for a tiger? I forget. It's Reese. Yeah, one of the band members, Reese, has him on the floor in the chokehold. He's going to kill him. Like he's probably going to kill him if Amber doesn't cut him up the middle, but she just expedites the process and sort of makes a declaration. It's like, this is the type of problem we're in now. We're in the problem where we need to become aggressors, where we need to commit heinous acts of violence.
Yeah.
And this is
like, sorry, you've lost the luxury of doing this the delicate way.
Exactly. Like you thought you were going to do it the delicate way, but honestly, choking this guy out and killing him is in some ways more viciously mean than me just cutting him up the middle, although that is pretty fucked up.
I mean, I was not ready for that.
I was not ready for that either. I was in no way prepared for that. Although that does lead me towards another sort of rich discussion topic that I wanted to cover. I love that I call my own discussion topics rich. We're going to leave that in, right?
I hope we do.
Saulnier was very keen on talking about this movie and saying that he did not want to have gratuitous violence, that every act of violence had to be very intentional, had to be very meaningful. And I want to throw this to you because I feel like I've heard fucking 10,000 directors say this. I don't do gratuitous violence. Every act of violence is so meaningful. It's so purposeful. We make sure that it's really important, right? And when I hear it, I'll be honest, I automatically get a little cynical.
Yeah, it's bullshit.
I'm like, is it? Do we think this movie accomplishes that task?
Absolutely. I'm so glad you brought up the violence because...
Oh, perfect. Okay, cool. Cool. See, it was rich.
No, the violence in this movie is unstylized. It is quick. It is brutal. But we do not linger to appreciate it the way you would in I think, a lesser movie.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I think the box cutter scene's a really good one, right? You slice him, you see it, it's gross, you are shocked, it shakes you to your core, but we've got a fucking job to do and we're going to move on.
And they drag him off set and then that's it. So the other really heinous act of violence, I think occurs before the box cutter scene, is when Anton Yelchin's character, Pat, gets his arm just fucking annihilated with a machete, and the one that he gets cut up with cuts through bone, and and they give you a view of it, and this one has been sharpened to be used as a weapon against people, which, like, there's something about that feels very like Hotel Rwanda, where I'm like, oh, chopping people up with machetes is some like crazy, you talked about final solution shit.
Yeah, it's primitive for sure.
And that's what they're carrying, these characters. And I think that is the first scene of like actual grotesque violence that we encounter.
What's great about that scene, weird to phrase it that way.
So great. I love watching his arm just get chopped off like that.
It happens off screen. The violence itself happens off screen. His arm is through the opening of a door, and you know something is happening behind that door, and you know it's bad.
Based on Yelchin's performance.
Based on his performance.
Can you imagine being told you're going to have to convince the audience that your arm's being chopped up with a machete off screen?
Yeah. And so you know that whatever happened is awful. And then you see it. And it's worse than you thought.
Yeah. That is a rare instance where my imagination didn't do the job.
It looks like an accordion.
It's fun, man.
But then, to your point about like the violence not being gratuitous, it is brutal. It is graphic. But there is a practical reality that has to be addressed. And so they grab a roll of duct tape, they wrap it up, and they get going. And it's not, I'm going to reference another old episode, it's not Roadhouse, right? It's not where, your protagonist just gets beat to shit all the time, gets shot, gets stabbed, moves on like nothing happened. He moves on because he has to, but that injury is a constant presence for the rest of the film.
Well, there's very much a sense, because the tension of this film exists in this room, and you're almost counting bullets the way you're counting all of their resources. What do they have in this room that can get them out of this room, right? There's this tension that constantly exists in it. And, the number one thing you have is human capital. Okay, we've got Reese, we've got Pat, we've got Tiger, and then, what's Elias Shawkut's character's name?
It
Sam.
is Sam, yep.
And we have Sam. We have these four characters. We have Imogen Poots' character, Amber, who is a wild card.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have Justin, who represents force from the other side. So we have that human capital that exists in this room at this moment when he's getting his arm chopped up. And then we know that we have this gun, but we may not, they've gained control over the gun at this point.
At this point, they've gained control over the gun. Darcy is trying to negotiate a trade of the gun.
Whatever you saw or did is no longer my concern. You tell whoever you want, whatever you want. All I ask is that you understand you were held here for your own safety before you were released.
Okay. Yes, thank you. But just to be clear, the police are coming back.
They've come and gone.
Well, that's what concerns us, man.
Just want that gun out of the picture.
We'll give you the gun for a cell phone.
Sorry, no.
Okay, well, how about a registered firearm?
Funny. Justin, you alive and well?
He wants a phone because a gun is not as useful in this juncture as a phone. Like we know they have control over the gun, but the gun's only useful to control Justin.
Yeah, I mean, the gun keeps them safe in the room, but they're still in the room.
It doesn't get them out of the room. And so this resource they don't have. The phone might get them out of the room, but they don't know how good Darcy is at manipulating his crew and the police into not coming and checking out what's going on, because Darcy's so mechanical. He's so smart. And he knows how to employ human capital and employ these tools in a way that the Ain't Rights just, they can't. They don't know how to do it.
And I think there's another example of, I think, the way violence is used in the movie that really, I think, sets up the story, helps us with our characters, is that the Ain't Rights are very uncomfortable with violence. They're very uncomfortable with weapons, whereas Darcy and his crew, they traffic in that world. And
they're trained in it.
They're trained in it. And even as the movie goes on and becomes, this story of escape and survival, and they start fighting back, they never get comfortable with the weapons. We've all seen the movie where someone who's never shot a gun before picks up a gun and they're an amazing shot. That's not what happens here. They're still always intimidated by the power of the firearm. They, even when they sort of capture back their agency and start to win a little bit, there's always this unease with the decisions that they have to make in order to survive.
Well, I mean, the moment in which comfort finally happens, at least with the air of violence and sort of like the costuming of it all, is when, so it's down to Pat and Amber. They're the only two that are alive.
Yeah, real quick, because we're not tackling this linearly at all.
Oh, we're not?
No, weird.
That's normally we do.
So the other thing about this movie, and I think what makes it work so well, is we are always very aware of how just desperate and hopeless their situation is.
Yeah.
And it establishes very well that no one is safe. You have Tiger just gets mauled by a dog. Right?
I'm so glad you brought that up. I think it's great that we got to start off another year, because we kicked off 89 and we went right into some throat ripping. Or was Roadhouse? Roadhouse was second, but whatever, it doesn't matter.
Throat ripping.
And then we got more throat ripping. I've seen more throat ripping because of this podcast than I had in my entire life.
And I mean, we went from Nazis to Nazis too. I mean, we may not discuss our movies linearly, but there is a through line when we are getting our movies going.
It almost feels like it's not random.
It really was actually this time.
I know.
And then you have Reese, and I think Reese's death is really interesting because he's the one who subdues Big Justin. Reese has shown that he has some power. He is a survivor. He can fight back. He's stabbed right after he escapes through a window. He fights, he escapes through a window, and before his leg is all the way through the window, he just gets stabbed and he's dead. And it's nothing.
He's still alive. Remember, he's still breathing a little bit. They want him to remain alive a little bit longer. And this is Darcy's practicality.
Because they want his time of death to be later when it gets to the coroner.
Yeah, because Darcy has a plan for how this is all going to happen. Yeah. He knows what he's doing and how he's going to do it. And there's a specific way that they have to die and when they have to die. And the whole thing is so planned. And the Wrights they have no plan. They just need to get out. And they can't get out.
And then you have Sam, played by Aaliyah Shawkat. And Sam's the one that you're led to believe has a chance. You think she might make it. It might be the Pat and Sam show here. And then she's just taken out unceremoniously.
I know, and she shoots the dog.
She does shoot the dog.
I know.
The dog was asking for it.
No, it wasn't. Dogs are never asking for it. No, I actually did. It's funny because I did come to believe that Aaliyah Shawkat's character was going to be the one who made it. Mm-hmm. And it partially is because I'm like, oh, that's an actress I know. And so I assume that. And then I was like, oh no, you're just Jenna Ortega next. Got it.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're going down, and I was not ready for her to die as unceremoniously as she does as well, especially because she gets a shotgun blast off, but is unable to stop the dog.
And I think that is why when it does get down to just Pat and Amber, we watch a lot of movies. We know how this formula works. You get your body counts and you figure it all out.
Yeah.
You still don't believe that they're safe because the people who should have been safe based on those rules are gone.
Well, probably, I mean, it's safe to argue that like the two most broken people internally and externally are the two that have survived. So she witnessed the death of her friend. Mm-hmm. And so she's completely fucked up as a result of it. from the very beginning, we know that Pat's character is sort of indecisive. Like he's not the most outspoken of the crew. He's the bassist. He's not the singer. He's not the guy you expect to like.
He's not even the guitarist.
I know, not even to step up. Well, that's the point. There's not to step up and take the lead on anything necessarily. Not to mention his arm's been hacked to bits. So you're left with like in some ways the two weakest characters. Even Sam, she's the planner. She's the one who's keeping them alive, really. Up until they get trapped in the green room, she seems to be, she's got the keys, she's got the plan, she knows where they're going. They need Sam.
Yeah, Sam's the one who, again, like,
she's the band manager in a lot of ways.
The rules, she's the last girl.
Yeah, she is.
And then she is killed like it's nothing.
Yeah, the whole movie, I was like, is this going to follow the last girl rule? And I was like, nope, it's not. It's going to subvert it in this really interesting way in that the girl that you thought was unimportant and potentially a traitor is actually your last girl. But so this is when Pat makes a pivot. He changes his identity to win. And, you know, he gives his speech and there's this paintball thing.
Rick Silva. Help organize the paintball for Skato's bachelor party. We were short a few players to book the whole field, so they paired us up with these ex-Marines. In the first few rounds, these guys just tore us to shreds. I mean, 0 casualties on their side. I just cowered behind these trees till I got shot, covered in paint. But Rick...
Tiger, you done? Okay. Pat, you're done too. Sorry, man, we gotta go.
This is before he gets to finish his story. He does actually tell the story twice. And there's this lesson in this story about just completely changing your approach, changing your identity in order to deal with the situation. And apparently this is also a real story. Jeremy Saulnier was playing paintball and this happened to them and they got fucked up and there was really a Rick Silva who was like, fuck this.
And he went like full Leroy Jenkins and just like ran out there without pants on, I think.
My kid who's 17 knows what Leroy Jenkins is. It is the most universal reference in the world. Yes, he goes full Leroy Jenkins and does that. But what I really, we're going to just keep talking about how good the writing is. What I love about this is that this paintball field, to me, I heard it and I was like, this is punk rock, man. It's big enough to contain Marines and a bunch of like punks and skaters. And they all have to figure out, like, they are on opposite sides and they have to figure out how to like combat with one another. And like this punk rock scene contains all of these various identities. But Amber, Imogen Poots' character, eventually comes back when it's down to just the two of them. And she's like, finish your fucking story because I don't have any other ideas. I don't know what else to do. Everybody else at this point has died and we're trapped in this room. And, you know, we can't get through the floor. We can't get through the vents. We have to go out this door. There is not another way out. And at which point he tells a story about going full Leroy Jenkins and then they paint their faces, they cut he cuts his hair, she hides in the couch, and they change the rules of the game.
Well, and I love it too, because like when they paint their faces, it's like shitty camo with a Sharpie.
Yeah.
And it, again, the sense of place is so perfect. Like everything feels so grounded in reality. Like,
well, there's a Sharpie in the room, and that's one of their tools.
They're not going to find face paint, but they are going to find a Sharpie.
Yeah, because that's one of the few things that's in the room that they can use to their advantage. There's a razor to cut their hair off because I guess bands go on there and shave their heads because it's a bunch of Nazi punks, and there's a fucking marker in there because they use it to mark up posters. So those are things that are in this room. Yeah, set list, whatever, right? That's what's in this room. And they're able to finally use that to create chaos and change the balance of power between them and these trained Nazi punks who know how to use weapons and have this enormous advantage. But it takes them losing the entire band to get to that point. Like, what are you willing to give up before you're willing to change the rules?
Yeah, and then even when they do, and this is where like they feel like real people, they're still scared. It's not like they're just like, okay, I've taken it. I'm a badass now. It's over. We flipped the script. No, they're still terrified. They still, when they escape the building and it's time to kind of go finish the job at the house or the farm or whatever, they even have a moment where they kind of have to decide, like, do we just leave?
Yeah.
Like, okay, we got out. Do we just leave or do we need justice?
And I don't even know that they're going for justice, though. I feel like they almost want to just know what happened. Because up to this point, we don't know what Darcy's plan is. We just know Darcy has a plan that involves them not getting shot. Mm-hmm. They have to have a certain time of death.
And that's another thing that we've mentioned a few times, but I thought really makes the movie a lot better, is that you have these two things happening simultaneously, which is that you have the escape and the fight in the bar. You know, you have the central conflict. But then there's this mystery on the side, which is that Darcy is staging a crime scene so that they can get away with the murder and dispose of the band.
And they have all of these like imposed restrictions for them to get away with the murder, that like they have to operate within these boundaries.
And we don't know what it is, but it's fascinating enough to give you that little bit of sympathy that you mentioned for the antagonists. We know they're bad. We're not Nazi sympathizers.
You're not a Nazi sympathizer. You speak for yourself.
Jesus Christ, Ian.
I have sympathy for all living things. Mostly the dog.
So
he's not a Nazi dog, is he?
The characters are fleshed out and interesting enough that I want to know what they're up to. It seems like they're smart enough that this could be a good plan.
And they get there, and this is, again, Saulnier being weird about details. Through Pat, he's like, oh, he's not even siphoning the gas right. That's not where you put the rag. Like, you fucked up your production design of this little show that you're trying to put on. They show up, and then the film actually ends with the same word it started with.
Was it shit?
Shit. Yeah. Tell someone who gives a shit. And that's what Amber says when he goes to reveal what his actual band is, because she doesn't fucking care what it is. And this is where it goes back to also what you said earlier, is that you thought that these are this pretentious people, right? And we find out that their actual desert island bands are Creedence Clearwater and Prince and what, of course, all of our fucking, desert island bands are. And the movie just sort of like, the air gets let out. And I think I want to go back to that interview too, is he's talking about punk rock and how it has to be experienced as a group and how there's something, the texture to it and the energy and the aggression, right? Well, this film, did this need to be experienced as a group?
I think it would have benefited from being experienced with a group. Yeah, I think theaters, it got a lot of attention at festivals, and that feels right.
Yeah.
This seems like the type of movie that if I encountered it when I was younger, right? This is the kind of movie that you would watch with your friends in like high school or college,
right? This would be like a senior high school, like freshman to sophomore college. Like, you found this movie and you can't wait to share it with somebody.
Yeah, it definitely feels homemade in that way.
There is something punk rock about the whole movie in and of itself, where it does feel like what he says about punk needing to be experienced that way, that this film does as well. And so maybe it'll get a revival at some point. If it's showing in a local independent theater, I would be down to go see it again.
It'd make a great midnight movie.
It really would. Yeah, I got to say, I really, really loved this movie. I'm so glad, again, that we traveled to 2016, found this movie, got to rediscover it.
I am looking forward to talking about my MVP.
All right. Well, let's do this. Let's take a quick potty break. And
that's not very punk rock.
Nothing I've said on this episode is punk rock. I said I was a punk kid. I am no longer a punk kid. We'll take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll do our MVPs and then wrap up our first movie of 2016. We'll be back shortly with more Sold Out.
Welcome back to Sold Out. We just finished up a conversation about Green Room, and now we get to talk about our MVP, our favorite contributor to what made, in this case, the movie great. Ian, who you got?
Production design, Ryan Warren Smith. I know this surprises nobody because I love production design.
You do, but I think in this case, we've talked a lot about just like the claustrophobia, sense of space, really feeling like you're there with the characters. I think this is a fair pick.
I mean, the title of the movie is The Fucking Room they're stuck in.
Indeed.
So I just think he achieved an incredible level of reality and detail in this space, from peeling up rug to the SS on the door, to your point, the sense of claustrophobia. There is this sort of perfect disorganization to the entire space that also gives you a sense of the finite resources within it. The van that they roll around in, it's like, I know this van, like everything about this space just feels like spaces that I've been in before, or I know people who had these types of spaces. And as I looked into them, and I was like, okay, I love this production design, I was like, what else has he done? He did The Holdovers, a movie that transports us back to the 1970s in a very specific space in this private school. And I was like, of course he did, because like it takes that kind of eye for very small details to bring you to that space and make you feel like you're there. He's done True Detective. Really, really impressed by everything he did in this movie to get us in the Pacific Northwest into the punk scene, and then give us this sense of just being stuck in a space with this band. So I'm excited to see what he does next. I think he did a phenomenal job with production design, and I am somebody who gets very obsessed with production design. So Ryan Warren-Smith, I tip my hat.
I also tip my hat. I think you're right. I think that this movie doesn't work if you don't believe the stakes, and you cannot believe the stakes if you do not believe that you are there. My MVP is Imogen Poots as Amber. I picked her because we're not given a lot, but she has a little bit of a backstory. She's the only character that really has a little bit of a backstory. We know that she says at one point that she is not a Nazi, but let's just say the people who hurt me weren't white. That's what we get for like how she kind of gets into this group. But we also know that her friend Emily, the one who's murdered, was murdered because she was going to leave the Nazi group, right?
Yeah.
So it operates a bit like a cult. Amber knew this, kept the secret, was supportive of it. So there's this duality to her, and the whole movie, we actually don't know where her allegiance lies. Yeah. She is with Pat. They are fighting Darcy and his people, trying to survive. Is she fighting because she's actually against Darcy? Is she fighting just because a relationship with Pat of convenience keeps her alive? We don't know any of these things. And Poots' performance is really, really strong, right? She literally just emerges from the background, starts out quiet. She's a witness. And then eventually she takes agency. She fights. And every iteration of the Amber character is believable, feels grounded in reality. This is a real person to me as I'm watching the movie. And it would be really easy. And the movie doesn't do this with anyone because, you know, when you have this like punk band, you have neo-Nazis, it's really easy to paint characters with a broad brush, and it doesn't do that. But I do think that Amber is the most complicated. She's the biggest mystery of characters. And I think Imogen Poots brings just an almost like ethereal presence to the performance that makes me want to know more. And I'm on her side, even if I'm skeptical.
I think that's a really good pick too. And I think her performance, as you're sort of describing it, and how she has this incredible sort of growth from fading in from the background and sort of being in this victim role to being one of the key aggressors on their side. It's one of those perfect marriages between performer and director. You know that that's good direction, that's moving that character in that direction. And then you have a performer who is doing it in a way that is believable and getting you along and bought into that, where you do have this character where she emerges as a surprise hero, but we still don't know how heroic she really is at the end of the film.
Yeah, and she doesn't have that much dialogue, right?
Not many characters do other than Anthony Yelchin.
This movie has like almost no exposition, really.
Yeah.
And so for her to have that evolution of victim in the background to sort of discovering that she brings something of value, which is information, to then being that unexpected hero, to do that without actually delivering very many lines or explaining anything, it speaks to the strength of the performance.
Yeah. And I think it's worth noting Anton Yelchin. This is his last film that he made before he really tragically died incredibly young. And I think he gives a phenomenal performance. He played bass for real, learned to play bass for the film, did a great job actually playing as a punk rocker in the movie. They were actually worked with one of the band members of the Thermals to learn how to perform properly as a punk band. And apparently he needed very little coaching on it because Anton Yelchin was just a great performer.
He really was. I mean, Anton Yelchin, when he was working, was one of those actors that his presence in a movie made me interested in the movie. It's just really sad to lose him because the career that could have been is difficult to think about.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say, man, I loved this movie. I love chatting this movie with you. It brought me back to a time in my life, this controlled chaos of punk music and like punk movie making. Like, I want to see more movies like this, but knowing that it lost money on a very meager budget does not make me hopeful that we'll see more like it. But at least we got to find this one together. But we're going to hang out in 2016, right?
We are. We still need to see Captain America Civil War.
Sure.
We'll find something else along the way. Until next time, when we watch another movie from 2016, stay connected to us. We are on Instagram, Threads, TikTok. We have X accounts that exist. You can find us in all of those places at soldout_pod. We are on YouTube, also soldout_pod. All of our full episodes are there with video. Watch us, listen to us on your favorite podcasting platform. Sign up for our newsletter at upleftmedia.com. That is where, if you want to know what movie we are watching next, you can find out soonest is via that newsletter. Ian, where can they find you?
I am at Ian_upleft at all the places you mentioned, and I probably have an account on X as well. Who knows?
And I am Michael_upleft pretty much everywhere. Stay connected. Give us your feedback. If there is a movie in 2016 that we should be watching, let us know about that. And we'll see you here next week.
We'll see you here next week on Sold Out.
Sold Out is an Upleft Media production. Hosted, written, and produced by Ian Tarter and Michael Smith. Edited and sound engineered by Ian Tarter. With special thanks to Rosie Page.